The NFL is finally back. No, the Hall of Fame game doesn't count in the standings, but don't let that fool you. For dozens of players, this is the biggest night of their football careers. Coaches aren't focused on the scoreboard. They're deciding who deserves a roster spot and who might be looking for work by the end of preseason. This year's matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals may not feature many established stars, but it does feature plenty of players with something to prove. Here are the biggest storylines and the players you should be watching. Carolina Panthers. The Panthers enter 2026 with far more optimism than they had a year ago. Bryce Young showed real progress last season and has established himself as the franchise quarterback, so Carolina isn't expected to expose him to unnecessary hits in the Hall of Fame game. That shifts the spotlight to Kenny Pickett. This is a huge opportunity for Pickett to remind the league why he was once viewed as a first-round quarterback. He doesn't need to throw for 300 yards. Coaches will be watching how quickly he processes defenses, whether he gets the offense lined up correctly, and if he can keep drives alive without turning the football over. Behind him, Haynes King could see extended playing time. King brings mobility and the ability to create outside the pocket, but consistency has been the question throughout his career. If he can show accuracy on intermediate throws while avoiding reckless decisions, he could strengthen his case for a roster spot. The Panthers' receiving core is another interesting storyline. Preseason games often reveal which young receivers can separate against NFL defensive backs. Keep an eye on the players fighting for the final 2 or 3 receiver spots. One explosive play or a couple of difficult catches can completely change the coaching staff's evaluation. Defensively, Carolina has invested heavily in becoming faster and more aggressive. Watch the young edge rushers. They don't necessarily need sacks, but if they're consistently winning with their first step and forcing quarterbacks off their spot, coaches will notice. The biggest concern for Carolina is depth along the offensive line. Preseason games are often decided by backup linemen, and if protection breaks down, it becomes difficult to evaluate the quarterbacks fairly. Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are in a different stage of development. While Kyler Murray is expected to sit, Arizona's coaching staff will be looking closely at the players competing for depth roles behind the starters. The biggest area to watch is the defense. Arizona struggled at times last season to generate consistent pressure without blitzing, and this game offers young defensive linemen and edge rushers an opportunity to prove they deserve rotational snaps once the regular season begins. If the Cardinals can pressure Carolina with a 4-man rush, that's a very encouraging sign for their defensive depth. Offensively, Arizona wants to establish a physical identity. That means the backup offensive line and running backs have plenty to prove. Running backs fighting for roster spots know they can't simply gain yards. They have to protect the quarterback in pass protection and contribute on special teams. The Cardinals' secondary is another position group worth monitoring. Young defensive backs will likely play significant snaps, and this is where discipline becomes critical. Staying in phase with receivers, communicating through coverage changes, and avoiding costly penalties can leave a stronger impression than a flashy interception. Matchups to watch. The matchup I'm most interested in is Carolina's backup quarterbacks against Arizona's young pass rush. If Kenny Pickett gets time in the pocket, we should see whether he has improved his anticipation and timing. But if Arizona's defensive front wins consistently, it could make life very difficult for Carolina's offense. On the other side, Arizona's young receivers will have an excellent opportunity against a Panthers secondary filled with players battling for roster spots. These one-on-one matchups often determine who sticks around after the first round of roster cuts. Special teams could quietly decide several jobs as well. Every preseason, players who make game-changing tackles on kick coverage or show value as returners often survive final cuts, even if they see limited action on offense or defense. Prediction. As for the game itself, don't expect a high-scoring shootout. Both coaching staffs will keep their playbooks relatively simple, and execution usually outweighs creativity in the opening preseason game. Carolina's quarterback depth gives them a slight edge, especially if Kenny Pickett can establish an early rhythm before handing the game over to the younger quarterbacks. Arizona's defensive front could keep the game close, but unless their backup offense consistently sustains drives, the Panthers may have just enough balance to come away with a narrow victory. Final thoughts. The Hall of Fame game isn't really about wins and losses. It's about careers. Some players will wake up on Friday having moved one step closer to making an NFL roster. Others will know they've missed one of their biggest opportunities. And that's what makes this game worth watching.